something that you wrote for Foreign Policy just a year ago or so. And it was titled, Why Progressives Should Help Defend Ukraine. You go on to say this: in the West's efforts to overcorrect for the United States' past foreign policy failures, we cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialist myths. As we look at the foreign aid Ukraine has gotten really over the last year from the West, have they followed your advice?
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. So there are a number of progressive groups that I'm working with directly, along with another colleague, who have very legitimate concerns about the overreach of American military involvement around the world. And so I think we have to be careful about lumping progressives who have very legitimate concerns about military aid that's going to Ukraine versus those who are bad faith actors. And have people been listening? I would say generally, yes, those of good faith do understand that Ukraine is dealing with an imperial colonial power that's, as far as I'm concerned, is committing genocide. Those are very different from people who go on Twitter, who propagate lies, who propagate mistruths because they're just engaged in rage tweeting. And so I just want to distinguish those differences. But generally, most progressives who are of good faith are definitely supporting Ukraine. It's only those bad ones that are getting off the press.
Bad ones.
Terrell Jermaine Starr, as always, we have appreciated your work.
Welcome to another episode of the Nick and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, man?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's great to be back. Nick and CJ show. And we have that Negro versus the entirety of Africa. CJ, you have the entirety of Africa that look at the Ukraine conflict, and they're like, "Nah, we good, bro. We good on this shit. Fuck that." In fact, South Africa does military drills with Russia. Meanwhile, look at the Negro that they found, the guy who's all in with the people that was spit in his face. You had the Peace Corps that send a message to Black liberals who will be tricked by this propaganda. They're like, "Hey, you don't want to go out here, man. They call Black people monkeys. They might treat you with disrespect, but don't take it personal. They're not used to Black people." That is a very nice way of saying they hate our ass, right? And that's one of the tenets of the Azov Battalion. They want to have Ukraine as a Aryan state. They don't like ethnic Russians. They don't like the Black Muslims that live there. They don't like the Romanis that live there. That is what makes the Ukraine proxy war progressives, the NATO left, particularly disgusting, because they virtue signal by saying, "Oh, we care about the Ukrainian people, but not the Black ones, not the 30% of the Ukrainian people that are Russian." And I think I'm lowball. I've been caught up for lowballing it, but I do that for a reason, because even if it's only 30%, that's a large amount.
Right.
That's a large amount. You had half the country that speak ethnic Russian before Zelensky and his fascist regime try their best to purge the language. Now you have the fascist regime in Ukraine and their supporters that are banning books. They are book burning. You know, the same thing that liberals are freaking out that Ron DeSantis is doing.
Here, exactly.
That's what they're doing in Ukraine to purge Russia from their culture. And this is the people they cheer on. Meanwhile, there are many Ukrainians like Zoya, her family, a lot of people that she knows, people in Eastern Ukraine, the people who were part of the referendum that wanted to be part of Russia and the Donbass. These people have, whether you guys agree with it or not, they take pride in their Russian heritage, the same way that people who have slave-owning parents, right? They're proud of Like, you guys proud of all the fucked up shit. But they're like, we're Russian and we're proud. But the Azov Battalion and the fascist regime in Ukraine, they want to purge those people. They want to ban their language. And Zelensky himself, he said that he wants to engage in an Israel model. He want to have an Israel model in Ukraine where you have the preferred Aryan Ukrainians who are on top, and then the ethnic Russians who the Azov Battalion and the fascist thugs in Ukraine continue to suppress. But CJ, anything you want to try to make? There's a lot.
Yeah, because I'm going to bring the clip back up. And I guess for our introduction, it's the broader topic of the NATO left. And that's what so obviously the powers that be, CIA, FBI, whoever intelligence agencies that are in social media, they hear what's happening, Nick. Yep. They hear like the conversations we're having about this war. They talking about us, man. What you talking about?
Gray Zone, Jimmy Dore, Combo Couch,
They're talking
the Black
about
Agenda
these
Report.
people.
Exactly. When they say, "Oh, there's good faith," sorry, CJ, I'll let you continue. But when they say there's good faith criticism, you know, the weak shit you hear from like Marianne Williamson or Nina Turner, right? Then he said there's the bad faith actors, the one who nail us against the wall with facts,
right?
And then you notice in this bill that he never, and they always do this, that he never states what's the lie that comes from the quote unquote bad ones, right?
Bad ones.
But go ahead, CJ.
But you're making the point that I'm making is that, and of course they have to bring on a black dude. If you think it's coincidence that he's black, get the fuck out of here. They know that black people are some of the loudest voices on this social media. Like, what the fuck are we doing over here? Black people. You look at TikTok, a lot of videos we play talking about this war, and then just everybody. So they bring him on, a young black face, to come over here and to say, look, there's progressives who is for this war, and that's who the NATO left is. That's who the majority reports, the Kyle Kalinskis, the people who make excuses, or the people who try to sit on the fence and try to act like, oh, I'm peace. I'm okay with, $60 billion in funding, but I am a peace
there
advocate.
Are people that even more malicious, the people who use leftist language to justify, like Nina Turner. I agree with Biden showing solidarity for the Ukrainian people. Get the fuck out. She literally said that. That's the language they use to justify endless war. And that's very nefarious. But go ahead, CJ.
I never see or hear a tweet of them acknowledging that there's an Azov battalion. I never see or hear them tweeting.
And they used to. Ro Khanna and Ilhan,
I don't understand this. Yeah, I know. I've seen that article.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, to your point, we know that they know about it because Ilhan and Ro Khanna used to tweet about it. Ro Khanna famously deleted a tweet that where he was raising the flag about congressional funding for Nazis in Ukraine, but he was calling that out under Trump. Now under Biden, he's all for it. Now they got their martial orders, they're all for it, and that says everything about it, right? And Matt Dustin, just like this guy here, they do nothing but lie about it. And they said the people who tell the truth, the people that will tell you the history, the people that will tell you the fact that this war didn't even start last year. The something that the NATO chief secretary,
faith actors,
Jens Stoltenberg, even he said a lot of people don't know this, but this war actually started in 2014. But then we say that, and then they say, "Oh my God, you guys been bad faith. How dare you guys repeat facts?" And then the NATO left pretends these facts don't exist. They do this shit where they pretend they don't see it. You know that?
Yeah.
Like
Matt does that. Matt does that in the interviews. He'll go on these interviews or these debates, I guess, on Democracy Now, and he clearly knows evidence. I think this was Ray McGovern was one of them when he pointed out. He was like, "Yeah, you said this, but this," and he was like, "Yeah, okay, you have to acknowledge it." They're counting on the fact that you don't know a lot. But to your point about the NATO left, Matt Duss represents what this guy is also doing. It's a completely flipping of the understanding of the narrative of what a leftist is, and they keep changing the meaning. And Bernie Sanders stands. Don't get mad. Bernie Sanders is part of the people that's flipping this understanding of what it means to be. So, I'm progressive and I'm anti-war, but I'm sending money to Ukraine. It's the twisting of the understanding, and it just keeps going left and left. And Marianne Williamson is a candidate that's going to move it more right. Believe it or not, when we're talking about war, she's a candidate that's going to be yay to everything that's happening in Ukraine, with the caveat of that makes her left. This is all you got to do to make you left if you're pro-war. But I'm not for no blank check. That's all you got to say. Just say you're not for a blank check.
There was a tweet by Marianne Williamson where and you can tell that she really getting in campaign mode because her tweets sound more like speeches now.
Yes.
And she had this long tweet where she's talking about, we need someone to stand up against corruption. And I'm like, you're not even standing up against the corruption of the Ukraine war. You fight against the corruption, but you have no criticism of one of the largest corruption money laundering schemes we've seen in recent history. And one of the largest military-industrial complex money grabs we've ever seen. You have no criticism of that, but you're going to pretend you're the anti-corruption candidate? No. And this doesn't even apply just to Marianne Williamson. If you're not calling out the Ukraine proxy war, you are not an anti-corruption candidate. Period.
There's a clip we're gonna play later. It's also from Case Study QB, and in that clip, the guy says, "Oh, it's Morning Joe." Yes, got a Morning Joe clip for you. Morning Joe is talking about on there. He's like, yeah, he's like, the last time there was a primary of a sitting president, it was 19 so and so. And man, what did he say in there? I don't want to misquote him. Maybe I should wait for the clip. I don't want to misquote him because I don't know if it's Joe. I don't know if it's Joe Scarborough that says that part or his guest, and then there's as a counterpoint. I don't want to misquote him, but let me play this clip again and just let me know where you want to stop. There's parts I want to stop to make a point.
I'll take the audio, CJ.
1 second.
There you go.
Here, let me rewind it a little bit. Yeah.
I want to read for you something that you wrote for Foreign Policy just a year ago or so. And it was titled, "Why Progressives Should Help Defend Ukraine." You go on to say this: in the West's efforts to overcorrect for the United States.
Why should progressives help?
We stopped at the same time.
Yeah, we always do that. We always have the same. We always have the same trigger point. But let me rephrase that title of the headline. Why should progressives help defend the boosting of military-industrial complex profits? Why progressives should help defend the United States' endless pursuit of endless war with Russia? Like, you guys see when you state like that, how that makes no sense. Why progressives should help the Azov Battalion and their purge of ethnic Russians? This is what the headline's saying, really.
Yeah.
The help Ukraine thing is bullshit because we all know that's not what the United States' goal is. The goal is to boost the military-industrial complex and to advocate war with Russia, to have endless, continuous engagement with Russia, to divide Europe and make them energy dependent on the United States and to cut their relationship off with Russia. Over the last 10 to 20 years, Germany and Russia has got increasingly close to each other. And many people in the United States, including Victoria Nuland, Mike Pompeo, they said one of the biggest dangers is the increasing relationship between Russia and Germany. That's the reason for this war. That's why Joe Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. He's a terrorist. So this headline should also read, why should progressives help economic terrorists like Joe Biden? Because that's what he did. So he committed environmental terrorism. There's going to be environmental damage in that area for a long time. Progressives, no criticism of that. Green New Deal Democrats, no, don't care about the environmental terrorism of Joe Biden. So there's so many layers about why this headline alone is ridiculous. But go ahead, CJ.
Absolutely. Well, now, let me just read the part of the article they have clipped out here. But in the West's efforts to overcorrect, this is what they're describing it as, man. With the West's efforts to overcorrect for United States' past foreign policy failures, that's them saying, calling themselves imperialists. We cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialist myths. Go ahead.
Sorry, CJ, but there's so many layers.
Like layers on top of layers.
You putting it very lightly, quote unquote. Like this guy is presented as I'm a black progressive, right? You want to know how he described millions of dead Iraqis, sanctions that have starved millions globally, the destabilization of an entire region, foreign policy failures. Damn, you kind of understand it, aren't you? You mean the United States genocides, the Zionism that we're sponsoring Israel and Palestine, AFRICOM program that robbed the sovereignty of countless African nations. Often, many of those we bombed. The United States that armed terrorist groups in order to support our political agenda of destabilization in regions. But according to this guy, they were just foreign policy failures. Oh, just oopsies, miscalculated, made a wrong chess move. So once again, CJ, I know you got some. If you want, I know you got some things that because I can. There's so many things in just this little subhead, paragraph, which is it's unbelievable. Go ahead, CJ.
No, I mean, I was just gonna piggyback off what you're saying, and that is that first part. And this is the lane that like David Sirota, the Robert Rech, I think that's his name, Robert Rech, even Marianne Williamson, they occupy this lane where they use the same language, or they want to use up until a certain point the same language. Like, yeah, we acknowledge something.
Yes.
but we're coming back. And that's sort of like, not sort of, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yes,
but in the West's efforts to overcorrect,
as if they give a fuck
meaning
about that.
Like, have we overcorrected really? That's why I'm attacking the overcorrect happens, because he's saying the critique is so harsh that we're overcorrecting. Is it overcorrecting? That's my question. But that's the description of it. For the United States past foreign policy failures. So he calls, like you said, you mentioned, millions of deaths caused by NATO and the United States, millions of bodies of dead indigenous and enslaved Africans. All of this are just policy failures because of all of these things. And then all of the recent history, like with Yemen and Somalia, like recent and past history is also sort of the reason that you see African countries going with BRICS instead of going with the United States. It's just, and I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can continue with the clip, and we have since we're on the topic, I got quite a few to share on Ukraine and propaganda. Cause I literally got two more MSNBC clips for you guys, and I got one. I go a little bit out of order, but I'm gonna play because I think it relates well to this clip in particular. But go ahead, CJ. Let's finish this out.
Yeah, and for our audience, we don't have really like segments today, so we're just kind of like just free flowing talking.
Yeah, this is why me and CJ work, because usually we have the same ideas, and then we're like, "Oh shit, this actually worked for a segment." We just plug each other's segments, we educate each other, and we have a good conversation. So I think that's what this stream is going to be. So let's continue, and I got quite a bit to share too.
Absolutely.
States' past foreign policy failures. We cannot forget the plight of Ukrainians or buy into Russia's own imperialist mess. As we look at the foreign aid Ukraine has gotten really over the last year from the West, have they followed your advice?
So it's curious to me that the comparison for her is, has the left followed your advice in comparison to the money we've given them? As if we're not listening. Yes. No, we haven't. Get them bitches double the money. You get what I'm saying? It's like and they have a black face. Supposedly progressive is the one who's to deliver that message. No, we have not. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can continue the video.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. So there are a number of progressive groups that I'm working with directly, along with another colleague, who have very legitimate concerns about the overreach of American military involvement around the world. And so I think we have to be careful about lumping progressive.
So there's some people who got criticism of U.S. overreach. You mean 800 plus military bases? There's a little bit of overreach. You see how hey guys, it's not an accident. I'm making these points because I want you to know that he knows every word that he says is carefully picked out. And I'm telling you why they're picked out the way they are. Go ahead, CJ.
I wonder if he actually believes these things that he's saying about the progressives, or he knows that he's here to smear people.
I said it in my Matt Dust segment. Like when you listen to Matt Dust, and there are a lot of people that I saw in the chat that was roasting them for being low energy, very boring to listen to. Like when you listen to Matt Dust, and when I listen to this guy too specifically, you can tell this is a guy just clocking in. They're cashing a check. You guys see, like sometimes we can't help ourselves. We get extremely passionate. You see our friends of the show, all our friends of the show. You watch their program, they get passionate, right? You listen to Matt Dust. You listen to this guy. You can tell they're reading a script. It's like the same way a cashier is like talking to someone as they're checking them out. Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, you doing good today? Like it sounds good, but you know they're just going through the motions.
Yeah,
that's what
they're going through the motions.
That's my personal answer to your question. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Who have very legitimate concerns about military aid that's going to Ukraine versus those who are bad faith actors. And have people been listening? I would say generally, yes, those of good faith do understand that.
But what makes them bad faith? Because they're against it? Is that what's in? Like, I don't understand. How is the description bad faith even given in this debate? what does that mean? Like, what is it to be bad faith?
So,
that you want the war to end? You're bad faith because you want funding to stop? Like, what's bad faith about what? Go ahead, Nick.
No, you ask good rhetorical questions because always I can't help but respond to him, because what he means when you say bad faith are the people on the left who are not nice little CIA bots. I mean the people who actually debunks U.S. talking points, not the people who accept like people like Nina Turner will pretend to criticize Biden, but then she will accept the premise that Biden cares about Ukrainian people. You know what I mean? So then people like us, we say, no, Jim Crow Joe don't give a fuck about Ukrainians. We would debunk the NATO talking points. And now when you do it that much, you guys, they can't even rebuke our points. So they have to say we back faith. They have to say that because they have no way to counter it. Meanwhile, the people they consider good faith are people like Nina and Bernie because they're weak as fuck. Those are the chosen opposition. The youthful idiots for the establishment. The person that is designed to be weak so they can knock down easily, like the Mickey Cons on Fox News, right? That's their job, to be the weak left. That even when they criticize imperial actions, they do it in a weak way that the establishment can always maintain their point and easily swat aside, right?
Slow down. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So let's finish out this clip so then I can pass it to you.
Ukraine is dealing with an imperial colonial power that's, as far as I'm concerned, is committing genocide. Those are very different from people who go on Twitter.
You see how, like, he's a progressive saying these things. It's, to me, that's what's jarring, is that it is such a shifting of narrative that now, Nick, the people who are protesting, we have right-wingers protesting left-wingers, Nick, over war. That's what we have. We have Libertarian Party, we have the LaRouches, if you want to call them right or left, whatever, protesting the left. That's what we have, and we have them going out wanting more war. And they're bringing these progressives on, and they have Matt Dust writing these articles. It's just a complete, shift. And then they're calling us the ones teaming up with right-wingers. Yeah, they want to team up with right-wingers. Go ahead, Nick.
One of the best tactics that these people learn from the CIA and the establishment is to confuse. Call myself a progressive while being a 100% rat lib. Like U.S. propaganda. Like, this is David Pacman. We just did a breakdown on him.
Yeah,
he considers himself a progressive. He considers himself a socialist. Meanwhile, repeat NATO talking points because their job is to muddy the waters of what it means to be a socialist, what it means to be a leftist. And then they deem anyone who actually read Marx, anyone who actually studied the ideology of the Black Panther Party, who was strictly anti-imperial, that was strictly against the police, strictly against our capitalist system, who advocated for a revolution outside of two-party duopoly. Those people are considered red-brown to these people. These people are considered the left that's actually on the right, even though they, like the TYT left, will apologize for they will support anti-homeless legislation. They will smear the homeless. They support giant police budgets, and they support giant military spending in Ukraine. But then they flip it on top of his head and say the people who are against the military-industrial complex, the people who are against the police state, are the right-wingers. We, the people who support Jim Crow Joe, we are the left. Their job is to be chaos agents. And my plea to you guys is, please stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt. They weaponize our good faith. And they say, oh my God, you guys are accusing us of being an op. You're accusing us of being a Democratic shield. Yes, motherfucker, because you're acting like it. Show me your actions that you're a leftist. I'm done believing people, CJ.
Yeah.
There are a ton of people on Twitter like, I'm a communist, I'm a socialist, but they got Ukraine flag in their bio. There were a ton of people I remember in 2020. There were a ton of people I remember in 2020 that was calling themselves fucking communists, and they was voting for Joe Biden. You vote for Joe Biden as a communist, and they were gaslighting me. I'm like, this does not make sense, because I didn't vote for Joe Biden even before I was a communist. Before I was a communist, I voted for Joe Stein. So I'm like, you a communist and vote for Biden?
I didn't vote for Joe Biden,
and we should
when I was a liberal.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say I was liberal, but I was definitely more of a sock dem. Like, I wasn't like well-read in theory, but I was strictly anti-war. So even before I was a communist, I was like, yeah, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. But you got people who claim they're communists, claim they're socialists, who vote for Joe Biden. Can we stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt? Can we stop listening to the bullshit labels that they apply to themselves? That's why we call these people out as agents of the Democratic Party, as CIA divisive shills, because that's how they behave. and prove me wrong through your actions. Which they
through
do
your
not.
actions. That's key. Through your actions. Welcome, new member. Red Win, DSX. I think that's what that says. Thank you. Welcome aboard. And now I'll pass it to you. Oh, actually, 10 seconds.
Who propagate lies, who propagate mistruths because they're just engaged in rage tweeting.
Propagate lies, propagate mistruths.
And so I just want to distinguish those differences. But generally, most progressives who are of good faith are definitely supporting you.
So in order to say that progressives are supporting Ukraine, he have to have all these caveats. They have to be good faith, and that's the label they're given. It's kind of like the word terrorist. Those are bad faith. It's no explanation. They're just bad faith. They're just terrorists. It's not no explanation. They're just terrorists. They're just bad faith.
Do you think this is an example of them using a multi-coded language? Like they are talking to two different audiences here. So when they are presenting this information to boomers, they want you to know, hey, yo, be afraid of these people. These are the deplorables, right? And then when they talk to the establishment, the people who tune into a lot of these things, like the Morning Joe audience, they also say, hey, yo, there are progressives like Bernie. They're the NATO left, John Fetterman. These are the good guys, okay? You gotta understand, these are the good guys. Even though we gotta publicly pretend we hate them, these are the good guys. We gotta separate them from the RBN, from the Jimmy Dore, from the Grave Zones, from the Convocation. So it's almost like that's my take. I think it's like a multi-coded thing where they saying one thing to the audience, but they also letting the room class know, like, hey, yo, there are good progressives on your side here, but be warned of those fucking tankies. That's how I view it.
I think it's the same message. That's why, because I think it's the same message to those two different groups. But you're right. I didn't look at it that way at first, but that's I mean, because look, we have to look at it from the point of view, Nick. Who is the media? They know they're owned by the ruling class. They know, to keep their job, they have to do a certain thing to stay in the corporate good graces. So that's why they craft the questions the way they do. That's why they bring on the guests they do, because they have a choice on sometimes in a lot of these segments who to bring on. But I'm saying specifically, and I can kind of, this is my last word on my video, and you can go to the stuff that you got. Don't think that these networks just bring on anybody willy-nilly. The guests are specifically chosen to craft a specific message. And that's what this guy is. I'm black, I'm young, I'm progressive. He's 3 key words he's able to say. I'm all of these things, and I'm for the war, ruling class people, and I'm for the war. Boomers, don't worry. All these other young people that's acting crazy, they're crazy. You get what I'm saying? So it is a dual message. You get what I'm saying? But I just wonder if he's just a useful idiot, or
no, he get paid, man. He's made. Because we did segment on him before. I see a lot. I remember that guy. We did segment.
Oh, I don't remember. See,
I think it was Q. We did segment with Q, and I remember Q roasted him. I saw a comment. I was like, yeah, I do remember that guy. Yeah, we did. Believe it or not, this is not our first segment on that guy. So trust me, he's getting paid. He's making good money to propagandize the public, and now you guys see why there's so many boomer liberals that are just fucking lost, son. They lost just because they watch this every day, watching this garbage.